Hello, my friends. Welcome back to our discussion. I am Somnath, and you are watching the best practice guidelines for the ABAP programming. So, I think this topic is a bit simple but relevant for every programmers or every developers. Uh, in this discussion, the intention is just to share my observations, learning, and also my interpretation of SAP's guidelines, right? What I understood reading out SAP's guidelines, also reading out different blogs been written by experts. So those is kind of a culmination of different information that I'll try to share with you. Of course, don't expect this is a this will contain the exhaustive list, and also I'll not encourage you or insist you to follow whatever I am sharing blindly. Why? Because I would prefer you debate on those discussions, you explore by your own, create different POCs, learn the topic, and then apply. Okay, just don't blindly follow things, and don't screw the overall aspects of the project work. So let's see this what this best coding practice guidelines talks about. Okay, so move to the next slide. It's a data fetching part. I'm just trying to segregate the overall program flows or logic flows. In any application that we build, the intention is it should fetch the data as per user input, I mean client interaction. And in the server side, we write the logic, right? We fetch the data from the databases, or maybe file interactions, or whatever file extractions, and get the data for our final data processing with different business logic to add on. And at the end, we'll be just rendering those information back to the UI. The focus or intention is just to limit down only specific about the data fetching part that we generally do, and also the data processing part, which is also certain performance intensive many ways that most of us already have observed. So those are the two areas I'll try to focus on. And as I told, maybe in subsequent video, I'll try to append this information, or this particular keynotes or presentation, and we'll see if we can improve this discussion more in future with more informations in a collected way. Okay, so in the data fetching part, as I told, the current trend you definitely have observed is the HANA, because majority of the customers either they are taking the S4 HANA, or they are shifting their database from legacy to SAP HANA DB. So if you are blessed, or if you are working in such a project where you have an HANA database, right? I believe majority in the cases I have seen, my personal observations, that people has an intention to create CDS views, AMDP procedures, AMDP functions, etc. So I'm not saying that is bad. Of course, whenever you are going to that kind of an environment and you are working on, you need to leverage the potential of that particular environment or system. So creating CDS, AMDP definitely makes sense to leverage those the latest development paradigm, which is the code push down. But also at the same time, some myths going around. You might have noticed the functional people when they ask for building up a particular program, they will try to add on, like create a CDS, right? Because if you don't write a CDS on HANA, means you are not basically justifying the system's potential. So some sort of things or myths are going around, like I have to create a CDS, I have to create an AMDP, then I'm doing something exceptional, or then I'm just justifying with the system. Otherwise I'm a bad programmer, or I'm not doing the right thing. So this is completely incorrect as per my opinion. Okay, you just share your observations also in the comment line. So creating a CDS at the first go is not at all required, or I am not encouraging you. At least I don't do myself. Okay, I need to understand first, like what kind of code push down really I am trying to make. Is it a heavy loading of program logic? I am able to push it down to the database layer. If yes, makes sense. But if you are trying to create some sort of concatenation of few fields, or maybe a little bit of case and case statements you are gonna add to your CDS view, I think that is not at all required. The same capabilities you can very well achieve through OpenSQL statements, right? So subqueries and those kind of things you can very well do in OpenSQL statements. You don't need to really create a new altogether different artifacts by CDS creation. Also, in certain cases I have seen that people think like this CDS is very specific to HANA database. Just for your information, it is absolutely not. Okay, this CDS you can create on Oracle database also. I mean, it's not specific for any HANA database. You can create CDS in Oracle or any other databases also. Okay, so that myth you have to come out first. And second myth is, don't just jump on creating a CDS artifact. Why? Because this is not needed. Okay, the same capabilities very well can be placed into OpenSQL format. Now next confusion or kind of debate will start. Then do you think, Somnath, you are basically saying don't create CDS? Of course not. That is not the point. You have to create CDS provided you think like these artifacts can be reusable. Means you have created a function model, you have created a report programs, and you are creating a CDS view which possibly can be leveraged by other programs in future that you can envision or you can foresee. And you are doing some sort of parameterized way so that the CDS view can be used the way you want based on your input, or maybe parameterized is not always required. I'm just giving an example. So that way you can create a CDS, makes sense, because when there is a multiple use case of the same CDS in across different projects or different objects. Okay, so that is the first thing. So don't create CDS just by like this. So the continuation of our discussion is like, what about common table expression? So as I believe the first point is pretty clear. If something we can achieve through OpenSQL, we definitely go by OpenSQL first. And if you think like the same OpenSQL you need to use in your program in different places, possibly with the same program context, you can leverage the common table expression capabilities. Where the same select query, you can just name it or tag it, and that tag you can use in many other places, and the same query can be used in the same program context. Okay, so if you are not aware of a common table expression, definitely just browse it through. You will definitely get a lot of interesting blogs on that topic, and explore more, and share your observations, share your learning in the comment line, what you have learned from common table expression topic. Okay, so third point, use CDS view only when you see there is a multiple use case, multiple different possibilities are there to be use the same CDS across. Makes sense to create a CDS, otherwise no need. Now you are creating CDS view with table functions. That is a beautiful concept where I have a capability available where I can put an heavy lifting programming logic using my SQL script under the AMDP function, and we can leverage the CDS potential also. Both we can use. And the fourth point, definitely giving us a lot of power, lot of possibilities. So use that fourth point when you have this kind of complex logic you want to build in, and you want to use the SQL script, and you can push it those kind of changes into AMDP layer. Okay. Also, if you create a CDS table function, the benefit is the same you can leverage in other CDS also. Okay, you can create a VDM layer on the top of CDS table functions. You can use this table function just kind of a view across different programs. It's a fantastic capabilities. Thanks to SAP for providing us such a feature, right? That we definitely should use it. Now, I have seen people are also creating AMDP procedure. First of all, AMDP includes the procedure term itself, but yeah, for the sake of understanding, because we have been using this word AMDP procedure, but AMDP itself is a procedure because ABAP managed database procedure. If you don't know that, this particular discussion is not to cover that piece. I'll definitely request you to take a look in the into the browse it through and get the topic or learn the topic. So this AMDP procedure, sometimes people create thinking like, yes, I'm doing some sort of great job in HANA database. Absolutely not. It is not required. So AMDP procedure is kind of a tuning you would like to do, which is not even possible with CDS views and table functions. And also you need a multiple result set. You got it? So like a function model or class, I have different exporting parameters, right? So one select query can populate multiple database, multiple in tables, result tables populated. In those cases, I mean very specific need, right? Then you can use that AMDP procedure, else not. Okay, some people's things like AMDP is very specific to native of HANA, so don't do that. Go for CDS because it can work in other database also. Just think here a little bit. If you are on S4 HANA, you don't think there is a backward compatibility on database possible in future. That is not, at least I know. Means like I'm going to S4 HANA today on HANA database, and tomorrow I think no, I don't need HANA, I need only S4. So just back to Oracle and keep only S4 a layer. I don't think it is feasible. So if you think having an myth around like your things should not be database dependent kind of a native SQL, because generally we have learned through, like we don't write a native a SQL, because if you just migrate from database to database, right, you don't those kind of queries you need to tune back to make it aligned with the database that currently you are on top of. So that possibilities, like if you are going in AMDP procedure, then it's very native to HANA. You cannot come out of those into a new database. That pretty much that possibilities, I think it can be discarded, because once you move on S4 HANA, SAP is not telling like, okay, you just go for S4 part, don't you just leave the HANA part, you just put on S4 on Oracle. I don't think that is a possibilities in future also, right? So you comment, you share your views and your opinion, what you think about. So those kind of capabilities we have, there are many others. I have just brought those 5 points because these are quite relevant and quite heavily discussed things and current SAP world. So you just try to sequence these things. At least I do a sequencing like that. Okay, I'm not telling you have to do the similar way. You judge by your own, you think on the topic more from your understanding and learning perspective, and sequence as per your choice. But this is what I follow. That's I thought to share with you, and I also explained why I follow. Okay, next move forward. Just let me know if any doubt, any confusions you have any on the topic. Maybe we can create a specific video on that topic if possible. Okay. So data processing part. So now data fetching part is all about this HANA only. Of course not, there are a lot of other best practice possible. I told it's not an exhaustive list, rather a very focusing on very discussed topic which generally we encounter day by day. Only that piece I have just tried to focus at the first video. Maybe we'll bring more discussion later, a later period of time. Okay, so now coming to data processing part. So the first thing is do one thing at a time and do a small thing, of course. So why I have written before you write so many of capabilities or so many of improved syntax, the first thing that you have to do is your program should be clean, and that's the best practice. Okay, it's not written anywhere. SAP will not tell in any documentation that do it crisp and clean, kind of a handwriting, and keep your handwriting clean. So no one will tell like that. It implies that you have to do it obviously. Okay, so first thing, don't mess with your program, because if you love the product that you are building, that you are creating, you respect to that development. Because if you don't respect your development, your creation, I don't think anybody else will respect, right? So it's your job to respect your things, what you are building. Build it very fine, crisp, and very small way, small thing. Okay, you create a method or create a perform, whatever you are doing. This perform should not do entire job of the program, right? I'm creating one, I have seen people are creating one program, data fetch, and this data fetch, this one subroutine is basically fetching 100 tables, joins a lot of things in one thing. So that is the first point you should be focusing on before you move forward any other new things. Okay, so you have to write the program very clean and crisp. Small thing should be done by a small method or small perform. Okay, that is the first thing. Second thing is use field symbols or data reference. What should I do? All we know the purpose of field symbol and data reference. I'm not going to that topic because all you know better than me, I guess. So but should I use field symbol or data reference? It depends. Like if you are creating a program from scratch, it's your ground, you are building your house. How you build it, it's up to you. Okay, so no problem, whatever you feel comfortable, you can use either field symbol or data reference. Personally, I use field symbols only, but yeah, it's leaving it to you, whatever you feel comfortable. So the point two is very clean. Like if you are maintaining your some old program, try to follow what been already followed in the old program, and just create a continuation of the program flow, not create your own footprint there. It's not needed. Okay, it will create a confusion for the developers who are in future they will maintain. They may get confused. I'm not telling that field symbol or data reference is confusing for them, but try to follow what been followed already in the program. So that is the overall say. Okay, exception handling. This is a very important part, I should say, because I have been observing, like when you people create a pattern using a pattern to call any function models or methods or any classes which does have an exception inbuilt. So SAP by default set those exceptions commented. Okay, and being a developer, at least just we don't want to uncomment those exceptions because we think it's not required, because there's a commented code, still my application is I can able to activate the application without any syntax error, means I'm fine. But friends, the problem is in development environment, maybe you are through because those particular exceptions not been raised, or you are not running through that kind of scenarios where this exception might get raised. Okay, so you are through. But unfortunately, if the same exceptions been raised in production for some reasons, then your program will end up with a short dump. Why? Because there is no exception handler available, because you have commented those handlers. So make sure you uncomment those handlers carefully after you call the function models or any methods. Make sure you uncomment those exceptions to avoid those unavoidable things on bad things or worse things in production, which may leave it to P0. Okay, so third point is a really small thing, but very important to focus. Okay, fourth point is need to check try and catch to be used or not. As I ever say, not always a solution. I have seen people are writing insert statements, certain DML operations they are doing, and or maybe open data set they are using, and they are checking a size over C. Okay, just important point is like those statements, you have to click a F1 on top of it to understand the SAP documentations, and just check if there is any exception, catchable exception been raised by those syntaxes, right? If it is being raised, make sure you are covering those exceptions under a try and catch block, because as I said, you might not encounter that particular exceptions in development environment, but when you are actually running in the production, it's a actual real world, and user might not have a proper authorization to particular file access or whatever, and you are using an open data set with the size over C, and open data set raising an exception, your size over C will not be sufficient to handle that exception, right? So you have to make sure you click on F1 before those kind of operations which raises and catchable exceptions. You have to handle it out carefully. Okay, very important. Number 4. Hope so if you are enjoying so far this series, what you have to do, yeah, you have to just give a thumbs up and subscribe this channel, set the bell icon. So these things you just do so that you should not miss out this kind of discussion in future. Okay, the 4th point is we have covered. Now the coming to the 5th point, which is ABAP 7.4 or old coding pattern. Which should I follow? Yeah, as I told recently, that if you are able to digest the topic well, definitely it's 7.4 or 7.5, whatever you feel you are able to do it. Definitely you are leveraged, you can leverage those potential, but make sure the coding should not be very out of the flow which you are maintaining. If you are, as I told, if you are maintaining an old code, try to follow what old code been written. Of course, you are not going to use header lines, because old code you are seeing header lines, you are also trying to use on header lines. I'm not I'm not encouraging that one, sorry, but you just need to make sure that you are not mixing heavily with the new and old, so that it creates a confusion for the support team. Okay, definitely you have to just create a balance. That's my point was. Okay, commit work and rollback work. So that is very important and crucial syntax. And majorities of the point I have seen, people are not using commit work and rollback work carefully. They think like write a commit work to commit the things in the database. My job is done. Even people are writing commit work and rollback work in the user exit. Okay, which is really danger, I would say. Why? Because SAP giving the user exit as a kind of a hook to enhance the particular transaction flow. And as a programmer or as a developer, right, as a consultant, my job is to ensure that this hook I'll be using just to mold the transactional state the way I want. But if I just put a commit work, let's say for example you are enhancing a particular user exit where you have the SAP transaction data, and you want to store those data in your custom table from the user exit. Let's say this is a typical scenario that I need to discuss or I need to cover. So what generally people does, they insert into this custom table in the user exit, and after that they write a commit work, okay, to ensure like the commit is happening properly in the database. So this is absolutely should not be done, must not be done. Why? Because it's a transactional flow, so SAP will take care of the commit and rollback work at the end of the show. It's SAP's responsibility, the framework's responsibility. You no need to bother about. Okay, you have to just think around, like you can just create an function model, update task enabled function model, right? And you just load your DML operations there inside that function model to update your own custom tables. And that's it, leave it there. What will happen the moment your commit work SAP triggers at the end of the transitional state, your update task function models will be triggered and it will be, your job will be done, right? So don't write commit work, because if you commit in the user exit, what will happen is at the end, if there is a failure and SAP trying to roll back, then of course it will not be able to roll back whatever already was there in the commit queue, which you already committed by your explicit commit statement in the user exit. SAP won't be able to roll back those work. Okay, so obviously you can anticipate what will be the final results. Data corruption, data will be inconsistent in your system. So never try this commit work in an user exit. Okay, I think makes sense so far. Let's move forward. The Okay, data processing part continued. The first one is don't delete records within loop. I have seen people are writing, looping through different two internal tables. Let's say table 1 and table 2. In the table 1, I'm just iterating the data. Let's say I have 100 records, and in the within this iteration, I'm just reading out some other internal table just to check the existence. Right, and finally I'm just deleting the record from the table on which I was doing an iteration. So this is quite performance intensive, and we should be avoiding the same. I believe this discussion may not be clear. Let's create a quick thing. What I wanted to tell you is, yeah, this is what I just wanted to share. So this is a typical example. Look at this itab 1, right? Assigning field symbol some fs. I'm reading itab 2 where field 1 is equal to this is not the right one, sorry, my bad. I should rather use field symbol, right? Let's say I'm using this field symbol, field 1, right? And finally, if the size subverts is not equal to 0, right, I should create certain fields equal to space, and at the end of this loop I'll just delete this itab 1 where this field 1 equal to space. So in one shot I'll be deleting it. Okay, what is the benefit? The benefit is this will be deleting within a loop is basically performance intensive. Why? Because let's say in this itab 1 I have 100 records, okay, and the first record I'm iterating, I'm checking in itab 2, and I found the result is not there in the, the data point is not there in the itab 2. So I thought to delete the record from itab 1. The moment I will delete, SAP has to recalculate the site tab index, okay, and if the data in itab 1 is very less, it is a less pain job for SAP. But if you think that itab 1 contains a huge amount of data, you can definitely anticipate how much of performance intensive it will be, because SAP has to calculate every time you delete it. SAP has to recalculate overall the index part, right? And you have to and SAP has to ensure that site tab index is always consistent, which is definitely a performance intensive, and we have to deal with it in this fashion. Okay, now someone will tell like, hey, if I delete using a where clause, that's also a sequential read. What about this? Of course it's a sequential read, but it is less impactful than the deleting within a loop. So what will happen if I delete the record from itab 2? It's okay, it's acceptable, because SAP doesn't have to do anything with the itab 2. Possibly if you are using an itab 2 and deleting it and binary search this itab 2, if it is not sorted, right, if it is not sorted, then it's a problem. Because if you are using a binary search and the things are you are deleting in between, and the table sorting gets damaged somehow, then possibly it will be a problem. So make sure you are using some sort of sorted table, or you sort it before the loop. Don't write sort statement within loop, because I have seen many times people are doing a sort statement within a loop. So unnecessary and very performance intensive. So if you need to sort this table, make sure this itab 2 will be always sorted, because you are maybe appending or some sort of data manipulations you are doing in itab 2. Make sure you are using a sorted table instead, rather than calling a sort statement multiple times in a loop, which is very, very performance intensive. Okay, fine. So where were we? Already discussed this one. Okay, so I believe the first point, don't delete records within loop, little bit clear now, and we should refrain from. Okay, now check obsolete syntax and try upgrading with the latest coding pattern. Of course, when you are using your development, writing or programming, make sure you are not using any obsolete syntax, and of course you have to make sure the proper latest syntax you are using it, at least to make sure that those syntaxes not been caught during your ATC checks or whatever, right? So you make sure that your coding is up to date, your programming is up to date. I think that's pretty much for the data processing part continued. Slide. Now this is update task, when to use it. Okay, people, as I told a few minutes back, a typical example where I need to update my database table in an user exit, okay, or some sort of an asynchronous DB update, right? That I need to ensure, and we should be using a function module of update task enabled. Okay, and our database logic should be inside that update task function module. And explicit commit, if it is not done by SAP, then we have to write our explicit commit so that this update task gets triggered in our custom program. But if it has already been handled, this commit work part is handled by the framework or by SAP, definitely we should not write any explicit commit work. Is not needed. The moment SAP raises the commit work, this update task function model will be triggered. Okay, so make sure you should not do these things. And most importantly, don't write commit work within your user exit again, because I have seen people are writing cyberc checks they are doing inside the function model after an insert statement, and if it's failure, they're again writing a what should I say, a commit work or rollback. Don't do that, because commit within commit is not possible. It will give a short dump. So don't do this practice. Okay, fine. And in this update task, make sure you should not write any error message also, because that is not acceptable, that is not possible. It will end up with error, short dump, as I already explained. Another scenario could be like, I am using a BAPI, let's say, and this BAPI will create a sales order, right? And after this BAPI is successful, generally what we do a commit work or rollback, depending on the BAPI return message parameters, right? And if it is successful, we are basically updating our database tables, right? And maybe that time not a normal function model, or maybe normal program syntax inside the main program context, and we are writing our commit work after that. Don't do this. So after the BAPI call is over, right, what you have to do, in that case, what generally we should do is, we first call the BAPI and then call our function model, which is we'll have to call in update task mode, so that this particular function model is dependent on the BAPI's results. Means BAPI is successful, then this job has to be performed. If there is that kind of dependencies, then you have to call this function model right after the BAPI is done. And then if the BAPI is successful, just BAPI transaction commit you have to call, else rollback. So by doing this, what will happen, our function model, if we are going to update any database tables, custom database tables, let's say with the sales order number, and by some reason BAPI failed, okay, then my update in the custom table will also be handle it out well. I should not be bothered. Otherwise, what will happen, BAPI will create a number, but eventually it didn't commit in the database because it failed during its own update task procedure. I mean, SAP's VA01 update task procedure, it failed there, right? Maybe some during output type attachment it failed for some reasons. Then it will return the BAPI message part as a transactional as a failure. So we are basically handling now rollback and BAPI transaction commit after this BAPI results. That is fine. But after that, if we just do update task things, then it basically will not be handled it out well. My sales order will be posted in my custom table, but the sales order is missing in the VBAC table. Okay, so that's kind of inconsistency will appear. So you make sure this kind of concept, it's kind of a algorithm, it's not the actual program syntax you very well can understand, but this is the concept that you need to follow in that case. That at least I follow that way. Okay, so that's pretty much was there for this slide about update task, when we should use it. And the last one, basically OOPS and procedural programming. Of course, question is, I mean, how this OOPS and procedural comes under best practice guidelines. Yeah, it's basically perception. Some people think like, if I do an OOPS programming, it will be I'm doing a good. Some programmer thinks no, oops is little bit crazy. I don't want to do that. My procedural is very fine. So it's person to person it varies, but I should say this personification part you can keep aside, but think about the project, or not the project, or the product that you are developing. Which things it demands? It's an oops it demands, or procedural it demands. Let's say you're creating a pretty simple program, of course, kind of a one-time utility. It will never be used after the first run, and you are creating oops in that utility. Maybe it will be heavy lifting for you if you are not very much a pro to these oops concepts. Okay, so in that case procedural makes sense. It's easy for you and you can do that. But at the same time, a program needs some kind of a scalability, more enhancement you can expect in future, and it's kind of an application that you are building, not just a pretty simple utility, rather kind of an application you are building. Of course, those cases, this oops object oriented programming should be considered as a best practice, because later on, if you just need to enhance this application, you have a more capabilities to do that. Okay, and also one more thing, I was thinking to create a video series on this oops programming for the developers, because a lot of misconceptions I have observed in this particular topic like oops programming. I'm not covering much about oops today, because if I start talking on oops, and the overall purpose of this video, which is a best practice guidelines, will be discarded, or it will be void. So we'll discuss more on oops part in some other tutorial. But simple thing is, there is a principle called keys principle. Okay, keep it simple. So if you think like simplicity is required, and it doesn't need that much of enhancement or scalability in future for one-time use, and you are not a pro to this oops programming, better you can go for procedural. Nothing harm in that. Okay, because everyone in today's world thinks if I'm not doing oops, maybe I'm not doing good. Okay, so that is not the right thing. It depends on the product that you are building, what it demands. That's what you need to supply as a programmer or as a developer. Okay, so that was for today's discussion. I hope that information or the topic sounds interesting to you. You share your observation, your best practice guidelines that you have been following through, your experience in the comment line, so that I can also get an opportunity to learn from you equally. And that will be more kind of an interactive way that I'm envisioning this channel should be. And also this is pretty much for today, but in the subsequent discussion we'll again come back to our original topic, which is nothing but the ABAP on cloud RESTful application programming model. And a lot of different interesting things are still pending to be created a content for, and hopefully I'll be able to do it. It was just a quick discussion that I thought to bring to your notice. So till then, we are connecting to the next tutorial. Take care, goodbye, and see you all. Bye.